welcome to a very special Q&A today. Today we're joined by none other than naturalist and TV presenter Iolo Williams, who for the next 50 minutes or so will be taking in the questions that you guys have been sending to us over the last few weeks, starting from his early life into visions for the future. So my name is Jenkins-Jones. I am the BTO youth rep for Cardiff, but it's not actually me who's going to be hosting most of this session. That duty goes to the very capable hands of the Cardiff University Ornithological Society. So I'll just shout out the three names. So if you guys could just give a wave and a hello. We've got Anna. We've got Maddie. And we've got Josie. Cool. So just a couple of house rules before we get started. This session is being recorded, so if you're uncomfortable with that, feel free to put your video off. If you could keep yourself muted unless prompted, that would be great as well, just to cut on any sort of background noise. And feel free to use the chat as well, because we will be going to the floor in the last 10 minutes. So if you have any questions cropping up that you would like to ask Iolo, please put that in the chat. And also in the last 10 minutes, if you'd like to ask him something in question, then you can raise your hand as well. So welcome, Iolo. Thanks again for agreeing to talk with us today. So just before we get into exploring your life, how has 2022 been for you so far? And what are you most looking forward to in the months ahead?
Yeah, well, 2022 has been a lot better than 2020 and 2021 anyway, thanks to the pandemic. But so far, yeah, it's been lovely. It's been really good. Spent quite a bit of time up in Scotland again, filming and guiding up there, and filming a new series here in Wales. So already, you know, we've been, filming. I mean, yeah, we do film, but I love just sitting there watching and watching behaviour and stuff like sand lizards, hawfinches, black grouse on a lek, cuckoos and curlew. So yes, so far it's been a good year, and the weather, it's worryingly dry, I know that, but from a filming point of view and from a being outdoors point of view, you know, it's been really nice outdoorsy weather. So, and then what am I looking forward to? Probably one of the big things at the end of this month, going up to the Isle of Mull for 3 weeks to film for Spring Watch. It's always a joy going up to Mull. And other than that, well, I'm not going to spend much time at home with the family, but it'd be nice somewhere sometime to find time to spend a few days at home with the family. And what I've missed out on this year most is not being here just to walk some of the lanes behind me. I do a lot of sort of just walking lanes, looking at things like, you know, succession of flowers as they arrive in spring, the appearance of the various bees, solitary bees and bumblebees, finding nests, song thrushes, blackbirds, robins, whatever else is around. So I've missed out on that this year. So I must make time next year to just wander the lanes and the woods around me here.
Cool. Yeah, we do have a couple of questions coming up. Hopefully we'll have time to answer them about how you keep a balance between time off and work. So yeah, great. So for this first section of the Q&A, we're going to be focusing on your early life and career up until you left the RSPB in the late 90s. And for this part, I'm going to pass you over to Anna, who's the president of the Cardiff Ornithological Society. So she's going to be asking you the questions that we've had pouring in. So over to you, Anna.
Yeah, I'm going to be asking you the questions about early life and career that we've had in. You were born in North Wales before moving to Llanryddan near Llynfenwy, where you grew up. So how old were you when you first got interested in nature, and what was it that inspired you? Was it anything in particular?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot, and it wasn't anything at all really. I think it's always been in me, because as far back as I can remember, there was that keen interest in wildlife. You know, I mean, some of my earliest memories are things like I remember finding a wood pigeon nest, and I wasn't in school, so I couldn't have been more than 4 years old. I remember finding a wood pigeon nest up a hawthorn tree. I'm being really surprised and dismayed that she only had 2 eggs, because wood pigeons, now I know they only lay 2 eggs. So I went back to the house, got some hen's eggs, and put 6 hens eggs around the outside of these 2 eggs, thinking, there we are, she's going to be so pleased when she comes back and finds 8 eggs. But luckily my mum was making pancakes or something that day. So she said, oh, where have the eggs gone? And I explained what I'd done, and she made me go back and get all 6 eggs back out to that wood pigeon nest. 2 young eventually fledged. But that's one of my earliest memories, and sitting, looking at the window at the bird feeders. I remember seeing a brambling in the garden for the first time. I remember seeing great spotted woodpecker coming in for the first time. They didn't come into gardens that much way back then. So it's always been there. There wasn't one event. It's always been there, I think.
Okay, that's great, thank you. And was Tinrunner your main patch growing up, and what sort of wildlife did you usually see there? What was your sort of favourite type of wildlife to see there?
Well, for me, because I grew up at a small village called Llanwddyn, it's better known these days as Lake Vyrnwy, but Lake Vyrnwy is the reservoir. The area is called Llanwddyn, really, because I grew up there. A lot of it's a really nice mix of habitats. There's a lot of woodland. There's a lot of riparian areas, rivers and streams, and the reservoir. It's not that interesting, really. It's too deep. But more than anything else, it was the uplands. It was the moorland. And I loved spending time up there. And I remember from the age of about 8, with a little dog called Bittu, and Bittu and I used to walk up onto the moors. Mum and Dad never worried, because I knew the moors like the back of my hand. Didn't have a map or a compass or anything like that. Always had a coat, of course, took a bit of food with me. And I've always loved moorland. And of course, I was watching spectacular wildlife, really. Lesser twayblade, like a small orchid, things like butterwort, milkwort, sundews, and bird-wise, it was fantastic. Hen harrier, merlin, black grouse, red grouse, golden plover, curlew, dunlin. So yeah, that's the habitat that I'm happiest in. And when I really want to escape now, I don't want anybody with me. I'll still go up, not to the well-known upland areas of Snowdonia and the Brecon Beacons, but some of the mid-Wales ones where I know I can escape and there'll be nobody up there except me and the wildlife. So yeah, that's still my go-to place.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, thank you. Was there, during your school years, was there much wildlife education, did you find, or did you rely mostly on outside reading? And did you have a lot of friends that were into nature and birds as well?
No, I was looked upon as a bit of a weirdo, because I grew up in a very rural area. Most of the boys I knew were all farming lads, and I was looked upon as a bit of a weirdo. I know a lot of wildlife people, Chris Packham included. They were picked on in school. They had a difficult time, bullied and what have you. I wasn't bad. I was playing rugby. I could look after myself, so I was left alone. But I was looked into his wildlife a bit, but he's all right, kind of thing. And there was no wildlife education at all, which is why I bunked off school constantly. I just didn't like school. I remember going to school, when I was year 7, Form 1, we used to call it, year 7. It was physics and mathematics for the first 3 lessons. I think it was physics and double maths. I absolutely hate physics. I hate maths. So I bunked off. I got off the bus, bunked off. I'd already been taught by my granddad how I could look after myself, what I could and couldn't eat, so I used to eat wood sorrel, dig up pig nuts. I could catch fish with my hands. Always carried a bit of flint with me so I could get a fire going. So that was no worry. And I learned more by doing that, pertinent to what I do now, than I would ever have learned in school. So, I often come across people say, oh, my son or my daughter not that good in school. I said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's only a small part of your life. And there's a lot of emphasis on education, and education is good, of course, but education comes in so many different forms. And just my advice to everybody is do what makes you happy. Do what makes you happy. You blink. I mean, I'm 60 in August. I don't give a damn that I'm 60. I honestly don't care. A lot of people say, oh my God, I'm turning 30. Oh my God, I'm turning 40, 50. I don't care. I really don't care. I enjoy what I do. I love my life. And you just live it to the best you possibly can. And for me, that's about being outside and just enjoying wildlife, just watching it, filming it, doing radio stuff about it, writing about it, but more than anything, just watching it and enjoying it, watching the behavior of things and seeing new things all the time.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's a really interesting response. So now we're going to look at your university education. So you studied ecology at University in London. And
hang on now, I better correct you. I was too thick to go to university. I went to a polytechnic. They're now called university, but I scraped 2 A levels. I did biology and French because I like languages and I found languages easy. And I got a C and an E, a C in French and an E in biology. And part of the reason I got an E in biology was because when I did the dissection, the practical exam in biology, I was still drunk from the night before. So I genuinely couldn't read half the questions. I'm not saying that I'm proud of that. I'm not now, but it just goes to show you at the time that school didn't really mean very much to me. Now looking back, I'm pleased that I did just well enough to get to university, because North East London Polytechnic, which is where I went, was brilliant. They treated you like an adult. The course was just what I needed. And it put me back on my feet and made me fall back in love with education again.
yeah, okay, thank you. That's really interesting. So can you tell us more about your time at university, and did you come out with any new skills or knowledge that became key to your lead up in a presenting career?
Yeah, it was a great time. It was in London, which is stark contrast with up here. But bear in mind, you're 18 years old, you're a bag of hormones, really. And I love my rugby, so I was looking for somewhere I could play rugby, go out and have a good time as well. And it combined all those things for me. But really importantly, it was the course. The course, I knew my wildlife, I knew my birds, my butterflies, my moths, my plants, my fish, and all this kind of thing. But what the course did was it kind of joined everything together, sort of showed how everything was interrelated and interdependent. So it sort of woke me up to all of that, really. Life is one massive food web and food chain, really. We're all dependent on each other. I mean, the human race is incredibly arrogant. We think we're not. We think we oversee all this. We don't. We're completely dependent on it. And we'll realize that one day when the whole thing collapses. So it opened my eyes, I think, to that more than anything else. And it also, I think, university is brilliant because it teaches you how to live away from home, how to live with other people, how to apply yourself to work when you really have to. So yeah, it taught me some really useful traits for later on in life, as well as the course obviously giving you good grounding. There were lots of other peripheral things as well, which are really important, I think.
Okay, yes. And looking back at your career, what qualifications would you say have been the most important for you to be where you are now?
That's a good question. I think, putting it bluntly, I mean, there are lots of things, but I think putting it bluntly, I think just the fact that a lot of potential employers look and see whether you've got a degree. There are lots of jobs now with Natural Resources Wales, for example, you won't get in without a degree. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that at all. I'd rather employ someone who has got all the knowledge, a lot of practical skills, people skills, good communicator, and can apply themselves really well. And just because you've got a degree doesn't necessarily mean that you can do that. I did a degree with some people who weren't particularly bright, but who just worked and worked and worked and worked and learned everything parrot fashion. Well, that doesn't make you ideal for a job day to day, so but the fact that you've got a degree now, a lot of people look upon it as a vital qualification. So I think it's just the fact that I had a degree was probably the most useful thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you. So we're now going to move on to our questions about your time working in the RSPB as a regional coordinator. And so you made a name for yourself as an expert in Welsh bird life. So the first question we have is, what were your roles and responsibilities while working in the RSPB, and what skills did you enhance while working for the organisation?
Right, I was what was called a species officer for Wales, and that meant 3 main areas of responsibility. First was monitoring species, so a lot of time and effort went into pinning down the pairs. Where are they? Are they being targeted by egg collectors? Are they successful? If they're not successful, why? Why did they fail? So finding out all of those things. Then it was advisory work as well, giving advice to some of the big landowners, especially people like the National Trust. You know, they own a lot of the coastal areas in Wales, and that is a vital area for chough, very scarce crow. And Wales has 2/3 of the UK chough population. So we had a responsibility to look after and try and enhance that population. Forestry Commission was another one I worked closely with. A lot of our target species were nesting in and around forestry plantations, black grouse, forest nesting merlins, nightjar, for example, goshawk, which was a sort of recent colonizer at that time, still very scarce, not now, of course. So we spent a lot of time advising the Forestry Commission on how best to manage their land to benefit these birds, and how our advice would fit in to their own management plans. Obviously, you know, it's a working forest, you have to harvest it. But if we went in and surveyed the area and said, listen, can you leave that until the end of the breeding season? You've got a pair of goshawks there, or you've got nesting merlins here. So we worked with them. And then the final piece of the jigsaw was investigating crimes against wild birds. Now, the RSPB's got an investigations department where the experts are based at the lodge in Bedfordshire, but I was the first port of call, if you like, for a lot of the investigation things, going out with the police, investigating egg collecting, trying to catch egg collectors coming to Wales after the eggs of rare birds, illegal poisoning, illegal shooting, illegal trapping, so dealing with that kind of thing. And on the back of all of that, as an add-on, really, RSPB didn't have that much staff in Wales, and maybe 20 members of staff with all the wardens. So we all had to pitch in and help out here and there. And part of my role was also dealing with the media. We did have a media officer whose job was specifically to put out press releases, to deal with the media, but sometimes the media wanted to speak to the reserves manager, to speak to me about a poisoning incident, or we'd lost 3 or 4 kite nests to egg collectors maybe, or can we speak to Iolo about it? So I had to deal with the media as well, and that was my first experience of dealing with the media. And to be honest, I didn't like it very much, because the media I found to be a real pain in the ass. They, you know, very pushy. They think that you're hanging by the phone waiting for their phone call. Well, you're not. You've got your own job to do, and you're sort of helping them out by doing it, really. And then when you were out filming with them, they push it to the limits. Oh, can we just do that again? Can we just have one more angle on this? And I was thinking, can you bloody get on with it? Because I need to get this done, and then I've got to go and look for another kite nest or whatever. So I didn't particularly like the media, you know, for the 15 years that I was working for the RSPB. I thought they were a pain in the backside.
Thank you, that was really interesting. So I'm now going to pass over to Maddie, who's going to talk to you about your current life and projects. Over to Maddie.
Hi there. Okay, so I suppose the first question I was going to ask was about your big break in broadcasting upon leaving the RSPB. I suppose you just mentioned you already had some experience in the media, so did that help you get the opportunity?
Well, it came about in a roundabout way. I did not want to work in the media at all. I was really dead against it. I've mentioned, you know, my experience was that they really were a pain, always imposing on you, and always pushing their luck all the time. And what happened was that my old boss in the RSPB, Roger Lovegrove, he was my mentor, really. He retired. And then we had a new boss came in, and it was just about the time when the whole ethos of the RSPB was changing quite rapidly. And I was being pushed up into middle management. They said, you've got to go into middle management. You've been here now for 14 and a half years, so you've got to go into middle management. And I said, well, what does that entail? And they said, well, you know, you'll be managing teams out in the field. You'll have to prepare annual reports and health and safety and budgets and all this. And I said, well, it's not going to happen. Really sorry, but it ain't going to happen. And he said, well, no, I'm telling you now that it is. You know, you have to move into middle management. And so I, with a very heavy heart, because I've had 14 and a half brilliant years, I handed in my notice, because I really was not going to sit behind a desk. You know, really wasn't going to do that, and not a hope in hell of that. And the BBC and S4C Welsh Telly heard about this and offered me a job presenting wildlife programs, and I turned it down. But for the first time in my life, I had responsibilities. My now wife, we'd just had a little baby, Dewi, who's a little toot, months old, and I thought, all right, okay, I've got to get some money coming in because I've got to look after, you know, my wife had given up work to bring up the baby and 2 boys we've got now. And I thought, you're going to have to do something. I looked around for work. There was environmental consultancy work, but a lot of that, as far as I could see, was selling your soul to the devil, working for developers. So in the end, I went back to BBC, went back to S4C and said, okay, let's give it a go. Let's try it. If it works for you and it works for me, brilliant. If it doesn't work for you, let me know and we'll walk away. Thankfully, it worked out because it's turned out to be one of the best things I've ever done. You know, it's been brilliant. Being able to go and see some fantastic wildlife, and it's really opened my eyes to a lot of new things as well.
That's really exciting. Yeah, that's really cool. What program was your favourite to be involved in, and what do you think was your funniest memory while filming?
Cool. Wow. There is no answer for that. I don't think, you know, I've been lucky. I genuinely pinch myself virtually every day and think, bloody hell, you know, this is going to come to an end sometime. You know, just make the most of it. I've seen some amazing stuff. Probably something that really sticks in my memory and always will is the first time I ever saw orcas. We were filming for Springwatch up at Caithness, not far from John O'Groats up there. And we were sitting down to eat in the evening. We've been out filming all day, and the phone call came through. There's a pod of orcas just coming along the coast now. So we left everything, and it had to be something important because I remember we were eating sticky toffee pudding and custard. And I love sticky toffee pudding. And I remember going to the cook and saying, listen, put that to one side. Don't let anybody touch that. We'll come back for it. And out we went, and we caught up with a pod. There's a pod of about 6, I think, with a big male with 6-foot dorsal fin just going along the coast. So we went ahead of them onto this little harbour, and they just came right past us. And of course, I'm supposed to turn to the camera and say, wow, look at this. And I was, for the first time in my life, I think I was absolutely speechless just watching this. I turned and said, I just don't know what to tell you. Just look at this. You know, it was an amazing thing. Then we caught up with them again, and we watched them probably on and off for about 2 hours. And it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. And what was brilliant about it was I was watching it in the UK. I wasn't watching it in Canada or off Arctic Norway or anything like that. I was actually watching it in the UK. That made it that much more special, really. So that really sticks in my memory. But if you'd ask me, some of the most enjoyable stuff is the Welsh stuff. I love doing the Welsh stuff. You know, we've done programs on Snowdonia, the Brecon Beacons. We've done Anglesey, which will be coming out later on this year. We filmed that last year. We've done Pembrokeshire. And I love that because I know Wales really, really well, but there's still a few surprising areas that I think I've never been here before. Or I see some wildlife for the first time and think, wow, I've never seen one of these before. You know, so I think if you'd ask me to be honest, I think it's the Welsh stuff that I enjoy the most because it's my patch. You know, Wales is mine. I think of the whole of Wales as mine, really. And when Wales surprises you and opens your eyes to something new, you're thinking, wow, that is amazing.
That's a really interesting answer. Thank you. So what do you do to stop yourself burning up with such a busy schedule? Like, do you have early nights? Do you have time to exercise and check the news?
No, not really. I exercise a lot because I played rugby till I was 45. I kept going for as long as I could. So I run now. I find running really boring. You know, rugby I loved because it was that competition. There was a physical contact. You come off the pitch, battered, bruised, shattered. Then you go and have a pint with your opponent and you know, no hard feelings, win or lose. And I still love that. So I really miss that even now. But I run at least a couple of times a week. If I'm at home, it's along the Montgomery Canal here, which is lovely because I see kingfishers, you know, I was out the other day, real good showing of orange-tip butterflies, the wild garlic's at its best now, the primroses are just going over now. So there's a whole host of stuff. You know, the swans have got cygnets, The moorhens have got young on there now, so there's always something to see along there, and I quite enjoy that, even though I don't enjoy the run itself. And I walk a lot. Obviously, you know, we walk a lot with work. For a long time, I played five-side football. I don't have time for that anymore. So the useful thing about going for a run is it doesn't matter where I am. I could be in Shetland, I could be on Mull. You can always go for a run. All you need is a pair of pumps, shorts, a top. You can go for a run. You know, if I was cycling or if I liked the gym, which I don't, you've got to find a gym or you've got to take your bike with you. At least with a run, it's easy. So yeah, I do exercise quite a bit, and that helps a bit. But I don't need to unwind really, because you unwind when you're out with wildlife. You know, whether we're filming or not. I don't find filming stressful in any way or form, because you just talk to the camera about what you're looking at. You're kind of a wildlife translator, really telling people, well, what's going on here is it's really interesting because this is doing that, or whatever it is. So and I found the lockdowns quite difficult, because it was great to walk. Obviously, I went out and walked, and I could find, you know, birds' nests, which I used to do as a kid. I always liked finding birds' nests. Never ever interested in nicking eggs or anything like that, but I love pitting my wits against a robin or whatever it is. I was able to watch the bees, bee flies, the moths, and what have you. But then you sat down and you think, right, what do I do now? You know, and I'm not a natural writer. I have written some books, but I'm not a natural writer. I don't enjoy it. It's a chore. And I'll only write if it's pouring with rain outside. Otherwise, I just want to be out. So I found lockdown really hard. And after that, it reinforced the fact that if I want to relax, I'll work. That's how I relax. I really enjoy what I do. So other than spending time with a family, it's just working because I enjoy what I do.
Fair enough. Okay. So to move on to Springwatch, you've been part of the Springwatch team over the last few years. What was your first experience with live TV? Well, I suppose we've covered the live TV. What was your first experience with Springwatch? Like, when was that? And what have you learned from being on the show?
Do you know what? There are three answers to that. My first experience with Springwatch was a long time ago. It was about 11, 12 years ago, believe it or not. And it was when Simon King had left. And I'd been filming in Canada, and I'd been out for a few beers with a crew. It was French-Canadian crew, and couldn't have drink. And I got in at 4 o'clock in the morning, very much the worse for wear. My phone went at 6. I thought that was phoning me at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it was Chris Packham. And he said, listen, Simon King is gone. They're testing quite a few people. There was a lad from Ireland. There were a couple of other people. And I would like you to be one of those people. And I was still drunk. And I said, yeah, great. I went back to sleep, didn't think anything more of it. Then about 2 weeks afterwards, I had a phone call, and I was invited to go and do a couple of things for them. I think in those days, I think Alton Watch might have gone out once a week for about 4 weeks, or twice a week for about 4 weeks, or something like that. So I was doing one of those weeks, and I filmed sea trout near Tywyn in mid Wales. I remember that. So that was my first experience with them 12 years ago. My first experience of live TV was 1985 on S4C. It was an evening program called Hell Strayon, gathering stories. And the RSPB was using a dummy red kite egg in kite nests. We were losing a lot of nests to egg collectors coming over from England, nicking the eggs. So we put a dummy egg in the nest, and it would raise an alarm when it was lifted. So the birds turned the eggs, it wouldn't raise them, but it would raise an alarm when the egg was physically lifted. So they asked me to go on and show this new device, brand new at the time, you know, and there was like an alarm would go off at a nearby house. They would phone the police and phone us, and we would come and hopefully catch the egg thief. And I had to go on and talk about this live, and I was so nervous. And when I lifted the egg to show them the egg, there was a pool of sweat in the palm of my hand because I'd been gripping the egg so tight. That's how nervous I actually was. So that would have been my first experience of live telly. Now I love it, absolutely love it. And when you do Spring Watch, Autumn Watch, Winter Watch, it's all live. And if things go wrong, I really like that, because a lot of people watch it expecting things to go wrong. And the worst thing you can do is pretend that it's not going wrong. You go, well, okay, let's have a look. You just go, oh, well, that didn't work, did it? You know, we've lost Chris, we've lost Michaela, we've lost Megan. You're stuck with me for the next hour. You know, whatever. You just laugh about it, because people don't know it's gone wrong. You just can't hide it. You just say, well, right, okay, what do we do next then? Let's have a shifty. Tell you what we'll do now. Let's go and have this lovely video filmed by Jack Perks on, you know, perch in the River Tean or whatever it is. You just go with it. And I love the buzz of live. And the good thing about live as well, and Chris is the expert on this, you can get away with some naughty stuff on there as well. As long as it's not too naughty, as long as you don't snigger, you know. I mean, I remember him, he'd taken Michaela out to show her a black grouse lek early in the morning, and he turned to her after the film and said, oh, Michaela, how about that blackcock before breakfast? You know, and because they didn't snigger or anything like that, and she, consummate professional, carried on saying, yes, Chris, a marvellous experience, blah, blah, blah. You know, it didn't register with the powers that be, who would say, oh, Chris Packham can't say that, blah, blah, blah. So he is the consummate professional on getting innuendos in. He's absolutely brilliant. And that's one of the things I love about live.
That's really funny. Okay, so just final quick question. This one's from our member Lily. What's some valuable experience that can help you pursue a career in conservation?
Now, that's a brilliant question, because what I usually get asked is, how do I get to be a TV presenter? And I was with a young lad called Indy Green. So a lot of people will have heard about Indy. He's a young naturalist. He's very natural on TV as well. He's a really nice lad. I've known Indy for about 10 years since we were really little lad. And I was guiding up on Mull about a month ago, and Indy happened to be up there. And I was talking to him, and he's a sensible lad, because he said, you know, like most people say, yeah, well, I really want to present wildlife programs on TV. Indy didn't. Indy said, I really want to work in conservation, try and make a difference. And if telly comes along on the odd day, the odd occasion, that's fine, he said. But what I really want to do is work in conservation. And that would be my advice to every youngster, even if they all say, I want to do wildlife programs. Forget that. Work in conservation. These days, you've almost certainly got to get a degree. Not almost everybody asks for a degree these days. But more than anything, be a sponge. Just soak up all the information you can about as many species as you possibly can. Get into your lichens, get into your beetles, get into your solitary bees, get into your butterflies, your birds, your plants, get into everything. And just listen to people who are proper experts, not me, people who are real proper experts who can tell you stuff where you think, wow, that's fascinating. Because if telly comes along in 5 years, you can then say, oh, I remember this tale that old boy told me about what they used to use this plant for, you know, and that makes you a more interesting individual if you can throw in little anecdotes like that. So work in conservation and do a job that makes you happy. I know it's easy to say, and a lot of people will try, won't get in, they'll have to work in insurance or in a bank or whatever. It's all worthwhile, of course it is. And if you have to do that, you can do your wildlife stuff on the weekend. You can still get your pleasure from all the wildlife stuff, volunteering, helping out, doing a little bit of work here and there, you know. So it doesn't matter what form it takes, just keep at it. And the one other bit of advice, I'm giving loads of useless advice here, the one other bit of advice I would give everyone, whether you're 8 or 80, never lose that childlike enthusiasm. I still can't go past a log without lifting it up and having a look underneath. I can't go past the pond without having a look in, seeing is there frog spawn, are there tadpoles, are there newts in there? You know, I love all that stuff, so never ever lose that.
That's some really great tips. Thank you very much. So I'll hand over to our secretary Josie now, who'll be asking more general questions and questions about the future.
Cool.
Thank you.
Nice one. No worries.
Yes, hello. Yeah, I've got more sort of general questions. Starting with, how would you like to see the landscape of Wales and the UK change in years ahead to make it more suitable for wildlife?
That's one of the massive things we have to tackle unfortunately, the powers that be don't see it that way, is that we have to get more wildlife habitat into our landscape. Now, we have to remember that we have to farm the land. You know, we have to farm the land. We've got to eat, whether you're vegetarian or not, you've got to eat, whether that means crops, whether it means cattle, sheep, whatever it is, we have to farm the land. And I think a lot of it starts, for me anyway, with eating less. You know, most of us eat too much. Obesity is a massive issue these days. And also less waste. We waste about a third of our food. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. We've got to waste no food at all. You know, when I was a kid growing up, food was quite expensive, was valuable, and my granddad and my mum and dad hammered into us, you don't waste any food. Don't waste any food. And if, you know, mum prepared a meal when we were kids and you said, oh, I don't like cabbage, or I don't like this and that, you were made to sit there while everyone else ate, and you didn't have anything else. Nothing else. You ate, or you went hungry until the next meal, and sometimes that was the next morning. And I think we need more of that. I really do think. I know it sounds draconian, but it's not really. You know, a lot of us, we fuss about with our food, and there are things, there aren't many things, but there are one or two things that I really don't like. But if it's part of the meal, then I will eat it. You're thinking, well, you know, tomatoes, I'm not a massive fan of tomatoes, but if it's on my plate, then I will eat it. You know, there's some things I don't see the point of, lettuce being one of them. It's like wet cardboard. But if it's on my plate, then again, you know, okay, I will eat it. But I think if we waste a lot less, if we eat less, just cut down a little bit on what we eat, we'll help tackle obesity. But also it will mean we've got more room on the land for our wildlife. And one of the things I think we have to tackle long term, we should be starting it now over the next 2-3 generations, is bringing the world's population down as well. You know, the UK population is all about to hit 70 million. Probably the UK can comfortably support 35 to 40 million-ish. You know, I've plucked that out of the air, but it would be comfortable with that many. It means we've got a lot more land where we can do a lot more for our wildlife. So these are long-term issues. In the short term, we need to get our agri-environment scheme right. In other words, the scheme whereby the government pays farmers to farm in a more environmentally friendly way. It's not working at the moment. It's not working for the farmers. It's certainly not working for our wildlife. And that means a complete revamp. You know, it needs to be heavily biased towards our wildlife.
Okay, great. That's some really good points. Yeah, thank you. And we've got another question here from Alex, one of our members, who's asked, as conservationists, we often have to work with people who we might disagree with or could be confrontational with the work we do. How do you think it's best to approach situations with people who are like that, and how's best to communicate with them?
Depends on how ignorant the people are, to be honest with you. Yeah, no, it is. I'll give you an example. You know, you get people who just are so ignorant. I mean, one of my big bugbears is with beaver. Very, very anti-beaver feeling in Wales, particularly over the reintroduction of beaver. Now, there's virtually no issue with beaver in Wales. You know, they'll flood all my land. No, they won't. They build little dams. It's not like the American beaver that, you know, can build huge dams. These are not massive. And then I get fishermen saying, oh, it'll block the river for migrating salmon. Well, if a salmon can't get over a beaver dam, it's got no hope of getting up the river to spawn anyway. I've seen salmon make their way over obstacles far bigger than that, you know. So, and the beaver creates a beautiful habitat, a nursery for fish. So it's actually beneficial to all kinds of fish and plants and amphibians and what have you. And I think some people are so entrenched in their point of view that sometimes there's no point talking to them. Sometimes you just move on and think, okay, there are others out there who you can find common ground with, you know, so it's good to have a debate, and you've got to, I think it's important to understand their point of view. Like in the past, I've been lambasted by farmers for calling sheep woolly maggots. And in a way, they are right, because it's their living. You know, they've got a family. The only way you can sustain that living in parts of upland, mid Wales, that we had that many sheep at that time, they were just grazing everything. everything. So, you know, maybe using the term woolly maggots wasn't the wisest thing I've ever done. And what I find is a one-to-one. I get on very well with most farmers, not all of them. Some of them absolutely hate me, and you know, that's fine. We have a difference of opinion. That's fine. But I get on very well with most farmers, and the more I'm out and about, the more I see some of the farmers doing some brilliant things. So if you can target those and talk to those, and slowly find that more and more people are doing it, then you know you just build up that rapport, build up the relationship, find common ground with these people. Social media is probably the worst way to do it. You know, you're always going to get people who are waiting to be sort of slighted. You know, you often get people saying, "Oh, I'm horrified by this." Well, they've been waiting on their social media, waiting for someone to post something up and say, "Oh, this is disgusting," blah blah blah. You're always going to get people like that. You know, that's one of the worst things about social media, is that it gives a voice to extremely ignorant individuals. It's great that it gives a voice to the more reasoned people on both sides of the argument, but some people on both sides, you know, they're just so ignorant. They really are. So you just try and find common ground with people and build up slowly from there, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Thank you. We also have another question from Kim, who has said, how would you approach bird ID if you're kind of starting off and struggling to ID similar looking species of birds?
Get out in the field. Just get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. You're going to learn nothing sat on your backside on the sofa. The more time you spend out, the more you learn. And try and get out with people who know their stuff as well. There's some people out there who are really good communicators who can help explain things to you. There's a girl called Ruth Miller, and Ruth is a wildlife guide, you know, and a couple of wading birds that can be at a distance, especially quite difficult to tell apart, is the black-tailed and the bar-tailed godwit, especially in winter. And she explained it to this guest we had on one of the tours really well. She said, if you look from the knee up, now it's not a knee, but it looks like a knee on the leg. If you look from the knee up, if you've got enough room to spell black on there, it's going to be a black-tailed godwit. If you've only got a little bit of room, and it'll just about enough room to spell bar, B-A-R on there, it's going to be a bar-tailed godwit. So what she was saying, you look at the length of the leg from the so-called knee joint up. If it's long, it's a black-tailed godwit. If it's nice and short, it's a bar-tailed godwit. And you know, I thought, what a brilliant way of explaining it to people. So you know, as I say, it's going out, it's spending time outside. Chiff-chaffs and willow warblers can be really difficult, you know. 99 times out of 100, if you get a decent view of it, if it's got black legs, it'll be a chiff-chaff. Doesn't always work, as the experts will tell you. You've got to look at the feathers in the wing and all that kind of rubbish. Well, that's fine if you've got the bird in the hand. But you know, listen to the call. That's an easy one. One goes chiff-chaff, chiff-chaff, and the other one's got this sort of descending song. But look at the legs as well. You know, willow warbler, 99 times out of 100 will have pinkish legs, and a chiff-chaff, 99 times out of 100 will have dark legs. So there are tips you can follow, but it's about spending time out in the field and spending time with people who really know their stuff as well.
Great, yeah, I think that's really good tips. Thank you. And then we have another question, which is, sorry, which 4 birding locations in Wales would you recommend to visit, and sort of through the different seasons, which would you think is best to see?
Okay, in winter, it's hard because your Wales people will be in North Wales, people in South Wales. In winter, in the north, I would visit the Dee Estuary, which is fabulous. 110,000 wintering birds on there. You know, pink-footed geese, loads of raptors on there as well. It's a great place. It's a big area, but there are lots of different areas there you can go. Winter in South Wales, I would recommend the Berry Inlet near Llanelli. That's a cool place to go in winter as well. In spring, I would recommend going to a woodland somewhere like Ynys Hir, not far from Aberystwyth. Fantastic, because you've got all the migrants coming back, especially now in May. Go for dawn chorus, redstarts, pied flycatchers, wood warblers as well, all the resident birds. The blackcaps will be in, the garden warblers will be in. It's a fabulous, fabulous place. And there are other woodlands as well in South and North Wales you can go to. In autumn, where would I go in autumn? Cool, that's an interesting one. Let's leave autumn for a minute. Come back to autumn. Actually in spring as well, the other place I've left out really bad is Scomer Island. You must go to Scomer Island. It's one of the best places in the whole of the UK, if not the whole world. You know, you've got almost 500,000 seabirds there. And if you can, stay overnight for the Manxies. The Manx, these amazing birds that have spent the winter down off the coast of South America. They then, one bird will be incubating the egg or looking after the chick in a burrow. The other one is way offshore by day, only coming in at night when it's pitch black. So you need to stay overnight to experience the noise that these birds make. So Scomer would be another spring one. Autumn, tell you one of the places I would go to in autumn. It's a really cool place, a place called Llangors Lake near Brecon. And in early autumn, you've got all the dragonflies on the wing, the commendators, the various chasers, broad-bodied chasers and what have you. Migrant hawkers will be there as well then. And you've got hobbies, birds of prey coming down and feeding on these, you know, trying to catch them and eat them on the wing. So that's a cool place to go. And then in winter, we're back to winter again. You've got the Dee in the north, you've got Berry Inlet in the south. So those would be the places that I would pick out. And it's just scattered all over Wales. So wherever you live, you're not too far away.
Oh, great. Yeah, those are really good recommendations. Thank you. We'll have to go check them out. I think that's the end of the questions for now. Thank you. There's been really good answers.
Pleasure.
And I think we're going to sort of open the floor and people can do the little hand up emoji thing if they want to ask a question or put it into the chat, I think. And I'll hand back to Anna for that. Thank you.
Yeah, so like Lucy said, if anyone has any questions you want to ask, then use the little raise the hand emoji, or just on the mic and ask them a question in the chat and we can read it out. So yeah, just give them 5 minutes to do that. Oh yeah, so Molly, is it?
Yeah, Mally. I was just gonna ask, I'm coming to the end of my degree now, doing a zoology degree, and I want to go into like conservation, and I was thinking of doing maybe a year volunteering or something to get like experience. Is there any like places you'd recommend, like getting experience, and charity places, organisations?
Where are you going to be living, Molly? Are you going to stay in and around Cardiff?
Yeah, I'm from near Bridgend.
Right, okay. Well, in which case that's perfect. If you're from near Bridgend, for you, I would highly recommend volunteering with the South and West Wales Wildlife Trust. They're based at Tondy, Park Slip, an old open cast coal area. That's their HQ there. They're always looking for people to help out, and especially people like you with a background in zoology as well. And what I would do is really make the most of your volunteering. And I sympathize with you hugely. I had to do exactly the same thing. It took me, after leaving uni, I worked on a farm, I worked in the forestry, did various jobs, but it took me 2 years, I think, something like that, to get a job. I was volunteering, helping out with the RSPB, all kinds of different bits and bobs, you know, and just trying to get my knowledge up to scratch, really, as much as I could. But not far from where you live, your home, you've got the HQ of the South and West Wales Wildlife Trust. So I would volunteer there. And what you often find with these things is that the job comes up, not necessarily because you're the best qualified, but because you happen to be there at the time that a job comes up. It might be that someone is working on a 6 months contract there, then all of a sudden they get offered a full-time job, they leave, and the trust is thinking, oh, damn, what are we going to do? We need someone immediately. And then someone will say, well, hang on now, you got that really good girl, Mally, she's here. Why don't you give her a bell, get her to come in, see if she wants to finish off that contract. So often your first job comes about by being the right place at the right time. So I would volunteer with the South and West Wales Wildlife Trust. They're really good people too.
Okay, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Good luck as well.
Thank you.
Oh, Alex, yeah, that's, yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Iolo, first. That's been really interesting talk. You mentioned the agri-environment schemes, and at the moment they need a complete like rehaul to be functional. How would a farming sort of landscape look in your like image if you were to decide that? What would be the best sort of course of action?
Because of our demands on the land, you know, as I said, we have to eat. You know, we have to eat. So you've got to have sheep, you've got to have cattle, you've got to have your crops and what have you. Because of the demands on the land, it wouldn't be a massive difference, I don't think. But I would target particular areas, you know, areas where maybe the farming isn't great anyway. Don't forget, a lot of the upland farming, in particular in Wales, is sustained only through the CAP, Common Agricultural Policy. It's the only way that it's sustained. It's very much an artificial system we have here. So I would, okay, in my ideal world, in some of the lowland areas, which floods regularly, I would try and recreate wetlands there, compensate the farmer, make sure that he can still graze his cattle there in the summer. Maybe he takes them off in the winter because the water level is going to be higher. So it's going to be a lot better for wintering wildfowl. It's going to be a lot better for things like breeding lapwing, breeding redshank, yellow wagtails, whole host of our wildlife. I would then hedgerows, I would target hedgerows because a lot of our hedgerows are in dreadful mess, real mess. A lot of that is because they've been scrubbed up, they've been neglected, they've been overgrazed often. Sheep will graze them right to the base. So there's nothing there really. So I would double fence our hedgerows and leave maybe a metre either side so that you get this lovely flora there of things like lesser celandine and primroses and what have you there, hogweed. I would also maybe have, this is an example, I haven't really thought it through properly, maybe one in 30 or 40 fields, I would have fallow for a few years. And maybe 1 in 100 field, I would have a sacrificial crop grown in there. So the farmer is paid to plant wheat or barley or whatever there, but he's also paid to just leave it. That will be so important to a lot of these seed-eating birds that are struggling. A lot of our arable flora that were once common there. So it's joined up thinking really, and looking at it not just minuscule. You've got to look at it on a landscape scale, on an all Wales scale, but you've also got to look at it on a farm by farm basis as well. And you've got to make sure that the farmer is on board, that the farmer is well compensated for it, and you've got to make sure that it's well monitored as well, because none of these things happen at the moment. I go and talk to farmers, and there are some really good ones out there. I go and talk to farmers, and they say that, oh, they've had someone from Natural Resources Wales down who haven't got a clue what they're doing. The farmer's telling them what the plants are, what the insects are. You know, you can't have that. You need people who are good communicators, who really know their stuff and will help the farmer. So it's all of these things need to be brought into it. And this is going to really annoy a lot of people I know, but what I've found in my experience, so when I talk one-to-one with farmers, I get on very well with them, and we've got a lot of common ground. When I've had to deal with the unions, the farming unions, it's like talking to a brick wall. It really is, you know. So if I was going to have a discussion, I would invite individual farmers who I know are doing some brilliant work. I would not ask for union representatives. It's like asking politicians to come along. You know what you're going to get. They're going to give you the party line, nothing else. You need progressive farmers, forward-thinking farmers to come to these discussions at the highest possible level. And there are individuals out there who are excellent.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Cheers, Alex.
No worries.
Okay, so anyone else have any more questions?
Yeah, I've got one, and maybe this should be the last one, maybe, because I think we are almost wrapping up. Yeah, so about 10 years ago, Iolo, you climbed Kilimanjaro with Sian Coffey and Rod Gilbert. I was just wondering, how was that experience for you? Was it very fun? Was Rod Gilbert as funny off the screen as he is on screen? And how did you raise awareness and gather funding for it?
Yeah, it was for Felindre. Does fantastic work, sort of cancer hospital there. Although Felindre and I've fallen out since then, because they're now building a new hospital on the site, which is one of Cardiff's green lungs there, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Felindre does do excellent work. But it was, I raised money by giving a series of talks, a few walks as well, organised a few sponsored walks. I've taken a group up Snowdon, I remember, took a group up Cadair Idris. I gave 2 or 3 talks, one in Cardiff, I remember, a couple up in North Wales as well. So we had to raise, I can't remember how much money, we had to raise something like £4,500, whatever it was. It's hard work raising that amount of money, but it was worth it. It's an amazing experience. And Rod Gilbert is really quiet, really shy person. But when he gets to know you and when you spend a bit of time with him, he is very dry and very, very funny, really funny. And one of the best experiences of my life was when we came down, we then had a 4-hour bus journey back to where we were staying in the hotel, and we got crates and crates of beer on there, and we all had to sing a song in front of everyone, and I can't sing, but I sang Delilah by Tom Jones, I think. Everybody knows it, so everybody joined in, so I didn't really have to sing. And that was, you were tired, physically exhausted, but to do it with a really nice group of people was really an amazing experience.
Cool. Okay, so the hour was just turned 11 o'clock, so I think that's all for this session. So yeah, thank you all for coming, for joining us today. I think we all know a lot more about Iolo and conservation than we did an hour ago. And thank you, of course, Iolo, for once again for joining us today. Diolch o galon. We hope you've had fun, and we're all looking forward to seeing you in the future in future programs on the screen. So yeah, do you have any passing words before we say farewell, Iolo?
Just to all of you, you're all young, just enjoy life. Life is too short not to enjoy. So just go out there, do what you like, because if you end up in a job you hate, it'll affect the other half of your life as well. So do something you enjoy, and life will be far, far more pleasurable for you. And good luck as well.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that's it, everybody. If you'd like to know more about the Cardiff Ornithological Society, then you can find out information on the Student Union website. Until next time, I guess, farewell, everybody. Again, thanks all for coming, and I hope to hear and see from you all in the weeks ahead. So, diolch eto, Iolo.
Cheers, hwyl fawr. Ta-ra, boys. Ta-ra, Gareth.
Thank you.
Yeah.